Hey loves! So I'm back for another video, not beauty related, but it has to do with happiness, and it was a request, so I was excited to film it. A sweet girl that I met here on YouTube, Jasmine, whose channel I'll link down below if you haven't seen any of her videos, asked me to do sort of like my favorite books of all time, because I talk about reading all the time. So I was happy to do that. Favorite books of all time is like a heavy thing. It's like ask me what my favorite lipstick is. It's very difficult. So instead of putting all that pressure and like driving myself crazy, I did spend a couple days thinking about it, and I came up with a list of a lot of books that I would highly recommend. I'll link full titles and author names down in the description box so you can look them up on your own time, but I thought I'd sort of go through my list and give you guys my thoughts on the book, sort of a little bit, like not giving away too much of the story, but giving you an idea of what to expect. If you have any questions about any of them, leave those down for me in the comments. If you have any suggestions, please leave those for me in the comments. And yeah, let's get started. Okay, so on my little notepad, the first one that I have is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, and I've told you guys about how much I love Tolstoy and like old Russian literature. I am very jealous of Miss Lydia, who can basically read Russian, or read at least in like a Slavic language, which I think would make it, I don't know, just more, there's something about books written in their original language that gets a little bit lost in translation. There are beautiful translations, and let's not discredit that for a second. I've read amazing translations, and you can tell the difference when it's translated well or not. But like, I don't know, just reading books in their original language is incredibly beautiful. So I'm jealous of you, miss. But anyways, a great book even in English, and it is long, it gets a little dry sometimes, but if you're up for a challenge and you want something that you can sort of read over a long period of time, it's a great one. I like it more than his War and Peace, even though he's more known in some circles for War and Peace. Anna's my favorite. Don't watch the movie though. There's a movie with, oh my gosh, she was in Bend It Like Beckham in Pirates of the Caribbean, and her name is Keira Knightley. That's what her name is. I had to look it up. Anyways, the film's not really good. Anna's a hard character to capture. She has a lot of depth, and I watched a version with my friend Caitlin, like a play adaptation when we were in Seattle last year, and it was amazing. The actress was just spot on. It was very minimal cast, very like basically no set, and it was amazing, and she was great. But the film doesn't really capture sort of the depth of her character, so I'd skip the movie but read the book. The second one is Peyton's Place by Grace, oh god, Grace M. I'm gonna put her full name down below just because I don't want to butcher it. It's a really cool read, sort of all about small towns and all the things sort of behind the picket fence, not on like a creepy like, oh, there are monsters lurking, but in sort of like stories that you wouldn't think of unless sort of you got behind the facade. It's a really, really beautiful read, very well written. It is a little bit more real and like not sappy and sort of Hollywood type, so don't go in there expecting like a bunch of really happy feel-good stories, but just really well written. There's a reason it's a classic. The third one is Extravagance, a novel by Gary Krist, I think. Again, full names down below. A really, really cool book. So it's written in two time periods. So it's written in like modern day New York, on like in the financial district, and then in like 1900s, I think it's 1800s, England, and they jump back and forth, like no mention of time travel is in the book, and there's no like now we're moving from this era to the next. One chapter is written in modern day and one is sort of back in time, and the same story. So he'll be like running out of the club, yelling at her down the street, and the next chapter starts with, and I could hear the carriage sort of wander off. It sounds weird. It takes a little minute to get yourself used to it, but it's so well written and such a cool concept. I really, really recommend that. I recommend all these, so just, yeah. The Patron Saint of Liars by Patchett is the next one that I really like. We read this one, I suggested it to my book club last year, and I loved it. They didn't love it quite so much. I really think it's a really interesting concept. And yes, the main character, that was the one thing they had issues with, was they like couldn't really relate to her. They found her, I don't know, too mean. They didn't like her. The story is really cool. So she's like a pregnant teen that goes to like a home for pregnant teens, and she was supposed to have her baby there and leave, but she never leaves. And so the first half of the story, or a little less than half, is her story, and then the second half is her daughter's. I really, really enjoyed it, and yeah, I would recommend it. The next one is also by Patchett. It's The Bell Jar, which I think is the novel that she's more known for. And it is all about sort of like this event that happens and things go bad and a hostage situation ends up occurring in sort of the effects afterwards. And it really gets you behind the concept of Stockholm Syndrome. Really interesting, really well written. Beautiful, and not at all like the Patron Saint of Liars. Like, it's a different, complete feel. If I didn't sort of see her name on both covers, I wouldn't have known that she had written both of them. They're both very well written. They're both great stories. They're just very different, which I think is a testament to how amazing it is of a writer she is. Okay. The next one, number 6, is What I Talk About When I Talk About Running by Haruki Murakami, who wrote that new book IQ84, relatively new, IQ84, which got a lot of good buzz. I didn't really like IQ84. I read it. It was weird. I couldn't relate to it. You guys might have loved it. Again, like when I talk about lipstick, when I talk about books, it's my opinion, and we can differ on it, but let's just we'll be nice about differing opinions. Okay. So I really like his book, What I Talk About When I Talk About Running, and it's sort of like an autobiography kind of, but he talks about what running means to him, and he runs 1 marathon a year and talks about his training and how that changes. And being a runner, I could really identify with it, and like everything he said were things that I've always felt but had a hard time expressing. So I really love that book, and it's about more than just running. Like, you can appreciate it even if you're not a runner. There are a lot of themes in there that are pretty universal. Yeah, that is really enjoyable to read. Number 7 is Girls of Riyadh by Rahaa Alsanea. And I've probably said that wrong, which is embarrassing because I speak Arabic. But I read parts of it in Arabic and ended up reading the whole thing in English. My Arabic, like, I speak really well, but my reading and writing skills aren't quite on par with my English and French. So I tried to read it, but a lot of it is like in very like current tongue. Arabic's one of those languages where there's like a classical language that's the written language, and then there's like a spoken language that varies from every single country. So unlike French, which is more or less the same in all French-speaking countries, more or less I say, Arabic is completely different. Like, I can understand Egyptian, I'm Lebanese, so Lebanese dialect obviously I get, but like Saudi Arabic is very hard for me to grasp. I get parts of words, but the colloquial is just hard for me. So I had a hard time reading in Arabic, which is why I read it in English. But nonetheless, it's a really interesting read. Obviously, with anything that's supposed to sort of capture a generation or capture a culture that's supposed to be exotic or foreign or whatever, it's not fair to label everyone with the scope that this book or that the movie or that whatever describes it as. It's a story about a couple people. That being said, this one is pretty cool. You can identify, it's not obviously endemic of everyone. Not everyone in the whole country is like this. Not all girls are like this. But there's enough variety in the pictures that you can sort of see a lot of societal trends. I'm getting all nerdy on you guys. It's a good book. It's an interesting read. And there's a little bit of depth there too, which is nice. Tolstoy and the Purple Chair by Nina, oh God, Sankovitch. I'll link her name down below. And I apologize. It's a really great book. So it's like an autobiography about someone who loves to read. It's a little bit more than that. But as being a reader, it really inspired me. And what she does is her sister passes away, and sort of that, she talks about that struggle and that loss in the beginning of the book briefly. And then she touches on the fact that like life is too short and she wants to do something that she's always spoken about doing, which is reading a book a day for a year. She inspired me. I didn't get quite to a book a day. I think I ended up reading 260 books that year, which was a really, really fun, it was tiring, but it was a really fun and rewarding experience. So she talks about the process of her reading, and then she also sort of talks about the books that meant the most to her. She has a blog. that I will try to find and link next to the, or underneath the book name down below, where she has her daily review. So it was a hard thing for her because not only was she reading a book a day, she was also doing a review every day on those books. So for anyone that's a book lover, a great read and really sort of an inspiring story. Number 9 is a bit of a cheat. It's anything written by Jen Lancaster. She's written things like Bitter is the New Black. Of course, now I can't remember them because I'm getting too excited and I haven't had enough sleep. She's like a light sort of reading, right? Like it's sort of that beach kind of reading. She is a hilarious, super witty. The books, like, just, you'll finish them so quickly. She's got a couple new ones out now that I just realized, so I've put some holes in the library to go pick them up. But she's super funny and super like light reading. I recommend her. In that same vein, and also still sort of cheating, are David Sedaris' short stories. He does like sort of dry humor in short stories, and he's got a couple books that are compilations of those stories. He is so funny. His humor might not be everyone's taste, but I really enjoy his stories. Very, very well written, sharp and witty. So I recommend anything written by him. What do we got? 4 more. The Expats by Krist Pavone is really good. It's like a sort of like a spy thriller, but more relatable. I'm not sort of a huge fan of things like The Bourne Identity or The Bourne Supremacy. I like them. I've still read those books. I've watched the movies. I find them entertaining. They're just not what I gravitate towards. This one I really liked because it had sort of more of a human interest story behind it, but it was still sort of like a suspense thriller at the same time. So it was really good. It's just come out in the last 2-3 years, I think, but it's a great read. Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Susann is a classic for a reason. There is more, it isn't like not adult in terms of like it's R-rated, but there is talk about, you know, relationships and sex and drugs and all that kind of stuff. So it's not for everyone, but it's very well written. It's a very human story. You see how people change and grow, and it follows, I'm gonna get this wrong, it's gonna be embarrassing, but 3 women who are friends who start out together sort of in Hollywood in the 60s, I want to say, and move through their lives, and things happen and things change, and success and fame and all that kind of stuff. I always had heard of it, never thought to pick it up, and I'm so glad I did. It was a really... Okay, so my camera cut me off and I'm not quite sure where I was. I think I was talking about the Valley of the Dolls and how much I liked it. The fact that it follows 3 women and their stories and it sort of ebbs and flows. It's a great book. It's a classic for a reason. Good recommendation. I love how I'm telling you it's a good recommendation even though you haven't read it and you can't decide yet for yourself. I really liked it. Saving CeeCee Honeycutt by Beth Hoffman is the next one I would recommend. It's a newer book. It was recommended to me when I was on vacation in San Diego. They have a beautiful, beautiful little bookstore down there, which I will also link down below for any of you guys in the area, or if you're ever visiting, definitely go by there. It's one of those independent bookstores that just... Independent bookstores are the best because you get people who really love reading and love books and love sharing in that with you, so they give the best recommendations. This was no exception. It is a shorter book. It's a nice quick read, again sort of centered around this young girl and sort of her new adventures in her new home and all that kind of stuff. It's a very girly book, but I really liked it. The last one are the Spellman File series by Lisa Lutz, which was also a recommendation when I was down in San Diego. It follows a family of like private investigators, and there's like an element of suspense, yes, because they're spies and they go and do things, but like they're private investigators, they're not like international spies, so the kinds of things they investigate are really funny. Her writing is hilarious. I have no bad things to say about these. Perfect reading, nice and light. You'll love them. So that was a long enough video, obviously long enough that my camera and card were full, and yeah. Lipstick books. I like to talk. Let's not blame it on lipstick and books, shall we? Let's leave you with my 3 points of positivity for the day, because I think I've said everything else. Yeah. So the first thing that I want to share with you, my first point of positivity or gratitude or what have you, is a fun Friday movie night, which has become a tradition with my cousins and my aunts. We watched Spy Kids 4 yesterday, which was fun. I had some popcorn, just like laid back, which was nice. The second thing is a good sleep I had this week. That sounds so ridiculous, but I have been exhausted this week. And it probably has a lot to do with staying up too late, editing and all that good stuff. But I finally went to bed at a decent hour on Wednesday, I want to say, and just like slept. And you know when you're so tired, sleep feels just as good as like eating a good meal feels when you haven't eaten all day. That was the kind of sleep I had, and oh, you guys, it was awesome. And the third thing that I am grateful for that's made me happy this week has got to be the Canadian women winning gold for hockey, which if you haven't seen that game, try to go on YouTube or TSN or somewhere and watch the last 3 minutes of that game. They were down 2-0, which for anyone that watches hockey, like you cannot recover from a 2-point lead like halfway through the game. Well, you can, but it's very, very hard halfway through the game, let alone with 3 minutes left in the last period. With 3 minutes left, they scored twice, it went to overtime, and then they won the game. It was an amazing game. It was so exhilarating. It just shows you that you never give up. You just dig deep and you keep at it. And oh, it was amazing. It was such a good game. I'm sorry for all my American friends that might not be so happy that we beat the Americans, but hockey is just everything in Canada. And watching those girls win is just amazing. Let me know what you guys are grateful for down below. I should leave before we end up here forever on this video. Thank you, Jasmine, for the great recommendation. Sending you guys tons and tons of love and leaving you by reminding you that life is just too short to wear boring lipstick. Bye, guys.